What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports, I guess it's final countdown hardwood show. I don't know, but we're breaking down the whole slate, right? We're here. It's me, Mangone. I'm here with BobbyGomes. We're talking about some NBA tonight. How's it going over there, Bobby?
Going well. Slate starts at 8. We're bringing you up to 7. We're going to try to get into this and break it down for you.
Yeah, we'll go to like 7:15, whenever we kind of finish it up, right? We're going to go game by game and talk about these. I'm excited. I think it's a really good slate overall. I don't know how you feel about it. I think there's a lot of different ways to go. I think we're lacking more value than I would like. We just got some news as well on the Miami Heat situation. We won't have any of that value open up. We got Tyler Hero back. Jimmy Butler's back in there. Tons of these guys. I know Dragic will be out, but Iggy back into the lineup as well. Bobby, what's your kind of first overall breakdown on this slate, and how's your weekend going?
Yeah, so my weekend's going fine. Thanks for asking. Birthday boy tomorrow, going to be 32, getting up there in age. But
there you go, big 32. So everyone hit Bobby with the happy birthday in the chat and on Twitter tomorrow. Give him the love. So big 32.
Don't mind liking the video and subscribing as well. Give me some birthday love that way. You can always, I'll accept that. That's fine for me and Travis. In terms of the slate, we don't have a ton of value. When situations like this, when we don't get the value that we want, ownership kind of condenses. Not a lot of content out there on a Saturday, right? It's a weekend. So I think there's a couple of leverage points like in construction that we can try to basically take advantage of. I feel like are you of the same mindset in that sense for tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's routes you can do it, but I'll admit, I'm here just trying to build that one lineup that I think is the best. I'm not out here playing another main GVP team tonight. I'm just doing one team tonight on each site. So that's my plan. So I'm not looking for all the leverage points in the world, but I will say, we have a slate. It starts at 8, right? I don't think I'm going to be playing too many guys from that late 10 o'clock game, but there is opportunity to be doing late swaps, right? So if you do think that there is opportunities to have some leverage plays and stuff like that, you can backload your lineup for that if you want to. So that's something to look at as well as we kind of dive into the entire NBA slate. As Bobby said before, it's his birthday Sunday, so hit us with that like, hit us with that subscribe, give him a little birthday gift. We appreciate it a ton. Excited to sit here, though, and talk some NBA hoops with you guys. And listen, we'll answer some questions in the chat, too. So ask them throughout the show. We'll also hit them at the end. So if we miss them throughout the show, feel free to hit us with those questions at the end as well. Bobby, let's dive in and talk about this slate. And let's talk about the Bucks and the Hornets. Before we actually talk about this game, what do you think of the Milwaukee Bucks? Because BigT was on Twitter. He was talking about how the Bucks, they've been struggling. And I'm in agreement. I don't think this Bucks team, maybe they haven't figured it out yet, but I don't know if they're any better than they have been in the past. What's your take on this Bucks team as we're a month into the season?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You have the best player in the world in Giannis, or what people believe to be the best player in the world. But to me, I'm of the same mindset as BigT. He doesn't shoot the three in the age of the NBA where you need to shoot the three. So for me, I'm not really high on the Bucks. Wasn't last year, haven't been, not high on Giannis. Kind of on the same side as BigT for that whole debate. So
oh yeah, same here. I'm with you. I want a guy that can shoot. I feel like guys are kind of they're figuring out how to play against him a little bit more. Sure, Drew Holiday is a better player, but their system, right? It's all the same stuff. They figured it out, I feel like, but we'll see. It's only the regular season. I say that a lot, so I have to at least give that respect and give them time to kind of figure it out, and we'll see how the playoffs go. But I'm feeling good about my Brooklyn Nets tickets that I bought right before the trade. I literally heard Harden was getting traded, and I jumped in and got some Nets tickets, and I said I can sell these if I want, if I feel bad about them. I'm feeling really good about them now. But yeah, let's talk about the Bucks and Hornets here. I mean, after a brutal loss for the Bucks, they're coming in as road favorites, 8.5, and we got a 231 total here. And I saw some people on our Discord chat. If you're not in the Discord chat, you guys got to get in it. People are talking NBA all day long, and I saw some people saying, they were like, "Listen, how does Giannis not put up 60 after a big L the other day? Right? He's going to probably lay a big one against this Hornets team that struggles in the front court." So, what's your take on Giannis as a spend up and this entire Bucks offense as a whole?
Yeah, so I'm kind of worried about Giannis just on the back-to-back with the minutes. I think he played 38 minutes last night. This game also could blow out. It's the same situation we run into with the Bucks, with games just blowing out, usage kind of being split up between Middleton, Drew, and Giannis, obviously. And get to kind of pick which one. Obviously, Giannis gets a ton of it, but if the game blows out, I don't know, at 10-8, I think there are better options. Interesting on Devo. Any clarity as to why DiVincenzo was pulled at the start of the second half last night?
Not sure exactly why. I'll admit I did not watch too much of that game. I just kept seeing I had my Yahoo up and I was looking at it and I was like, man, this game is a blowout. It just kept blowing out. So I did not pay attention too much to that game. So I don't know the exact reasoning for DiVincenzo. I don't think he got hurt. I can look it up here if you want. If you want to keep talking about some of these guys, like I think one guy to talk about, and I think this is a good lineup construction thing to mention, Chris Middleton at small forward. I feel like small forward, you can spend up a little bit today on both FanDuel and DraftKings. So what do you think of maybe spending on a guy like Chris Middleton against this team that like to play a little bit more small ball? And it feels like Chris Middleton could just shoot over them from downtown.
Yeah, especially with those three guards, right? Rozier, Graham, LaMelo Ball. Middleton's going to get a lot of those guys defensively, so I don't mind the call and paying up for Middleton. Drew as well. Like Drew had a good game last night. I like Drew. He's at 7,200. The thing is, I'm just worried about the blowout, and that would be kind of my issue if this game does blow out. It's at Charlotte, so there's probably less of a chance of the game blowing out. But I don't know. With these Bucks, it's really hard for me in terms of DFS. Yeah, and then if I did want to play one of them and the game stay close, I definitely want Giannis would be the guy for me. But I just don't. I don't like playing him, and I don't know. I get the love for Middleton. I've kind of heard it. He's going to be pretty low owned as well. So, any run back options on the Charlotte side you like?
Yeah. So before you go to that, let me mention DiVincenzo. So it looks like I don't know if maybe he fouled, but he literally played like I think he was there for a minute and 30 or a minute and 3 seconds. And then they kind of got rid of him and then he closed the game out. He didn't play the final, like, what is it? I'm looking at it here on Popcorn Machine, the final 4 minutes. He didn't play, but that game was kind of out of reach. So that doesn't surprise me at all. They brought in Connaughton there to kind of close it out. But yeah, I think that's perfectly, I think DiVincenzo was perfectly fine. I think it was probably just foul trouble, nothing wonkier with his other rotations, or he got hurt real quick, checked by the trainers, and then came in later. I do want to mention with Giannis, before we kind of talk about Charlotte, I did pretty well the other night, and it was because of Giannis. I like to make fun of him, but I want him in games when it's going to be close, right? And I thought that Raptors game would be close, and it was, and I know that they struggle in the front court. If you think that this game could be a close game, right? Let's say you think Gordon Hayward is going to keep this game close. If you play Gordon Hayward and think that he hits his ceiling, I would want to run it back with Giannis, because when Giannis is in a close game where the front court is just easy to just pick apart, he is going to do really well. Now, a close game against the Lakers, not so much, because my problem with that can be is he could obviously get bottled up by a guy like Davis and get double teamed a ton. Of course, he could still have a really good game against the Lakers. I'm not saying that he can't, but against a team that has a really bad front court, if that Charlotte team can keep it close with the underdogs, I think I want to have Giannis. I think he's going to be an important piece. So I could see him going lower owned today, and I think he's a really good option if you are playing any of these Charlotte guys. And the one guy that that I mentioned before is Gordon Hayward. I think he's a really interesting option. I still think he's cheap enough in cash games as well. I believe he's at like the 7K price tag. And I mentioned when I talked about Chris Middleton, I think that range of 7K and 8K of small forward, I think it's okay to maybe take a shot on guys in that range. I'm not saying you have to lock them in cash games, but I think it's more viable than most slates for me. What do you think about that when we're talking construction here, Bobby?
Yeah, so in terms of construction, I think it's going to start off. We have like the 3 10K guys, right? Lillard, you have Luka, and then you have Giannis.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to run back Gordon Hayward, who has a really good number in terms of projections and props, you'd definitely go to Giannis. For me, I think my favorite out of those 3, obviously the cash game option. I think the guy who a lot of people are going to flock to in cash is Lillard. It would be Doncic, but I like the idea of going to Giannis. My issue is I feel like he played 38 minutes or whatever last night. Is in terms of his situation, I don't think it's as concrete as Doncic's is, and they're going to come in probably at some similar ownership levels. So I just prefer Luka situationally.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's good. Obviously, when we talk about these studs to kind of mention, hey, if you're considering Giannis, you got to consider some of these other guys. And I think Dame is my favorite spend up if I had to pick. I would say that that is the guy that I am looking at the most. If I have to pick one guy to spend on right now. But again, we have more news that could be coming. I don't have my Twitter up, so let me pull up my tweet deck so I can kind of see if any news comes by. And if you guys see any news in the chat, feel free to mention that. We got some people in the chat. Harold said, somebody buy Bobby a webcam for his birthday. So I don't know if that's on the list for things to get you, or some furniture behind you, or maybe a poster of Jonas Gray, right? Isn't he the guy that helped you win the million way back in the day? Was that the guy I'm thinking of, Bobby?
Way back in the day, Jonas. Yeah. If you couldn't luck box any harder, I luck boxed probably as hard as you can that week. So.
Hey man, listen, if you kind of were betting there and you didn't think Jonas Gray was going to be mentioned on the show, like we mentioned him right out of nowhere. Jonas Gray has probably not been mentioned on a fantasy podcast in over a year, but we got it here we got everything over here at Run Pure Sports for you guys. Let's talk a little bit more about this Charlotte side though. I do want to discuss some of these players because again, Hayward is definitely an interesting option to look at. LaMelo Ball, I just can't get behind LaMelo anymore. The problem with him is he's just not getting the minutes that you expected. It's becoming more of Devontae Graham's backcourt right now. And Devontae Graham, even though he is 6.8K, he's going to be probably 1 to 5% owned today on this slate. And he has a ceiling, right? He's not afraid to shoot. If the ball goes in, he's going to have a nice little ceiling game here. So what do you think of him as another guard option that you can consider?
Yeah, he'd probably be my favorite guard option, but I think you hit the nail on the head with Hayward. I feel like he's just the best play. In terms of LaMelo, if LaMelo's a good tournament option, right? If LaMelo's playing well, then he's going to play. If he's not, then he's not going to play. They have other guys they can go to in terms of guards. So, for me, if you're playing multi-entry, LaMelo is someone you can include in your player pool. But outside of that, it would be just Hayward and Devontae. And Cody Zeller, right? Cody Zeller is another guy that's going to be – it's funny we haven't hit on Cody Zeller because I think he's going to be a linchpin in construction. And I think he's a guy I want to kind of get away from in terms of I just think he's bad chalk. And I think because you have Xavier Tillman who has the position eligibility on DraftKings, I just feel like Zeller would be the guy who's kind of constricted at that center position that we kind of get different on. So he's someone I'm trying to find ways to kind of leverage. When we have no value, people are just going to flock to Zeller, especially in higher stakes stuff. So I think differentiating the construction that way is definitely viable.
Yeah, and a couple of things just came across my timeline that have to do with this game and kind of has to do with Cody Zeller and another guy I want to talk about. So we'll mention it here. First thing, Giannis put up 41 points and 20 rebounds last time out against Charlotte. That's what the Bucks Twitter just tweeted out. I thought that was interesting, right? It just shows how bad that front court is, but we know that they can obviously get killed. It's one of the front courts that I attack a lot in DFS. So why Giannis makes a lot of sense as a spend-up option. But here's the big one. So James Borrego, I believe that's how you say his name, he said he's gone small against the Bucks in the past, largely to bring in Brook Lopez, or to bring Brook Lopez and Giannis also out of the paint. And they'll do that some tonight. And they've been talking about basically trying to get back to more small ball lineups. And the reason is they're just saying, hey, we're willing to kind of give up some of those points to be able to get more of the opportunity on offense, stretch the floor, give us better spacing. And that's something you might see tonight. And that could hurt Cody Zeller. That could hurt his closeout rotation. I do think it hurts Bismack Biyombo the most. Not saying anyone's going to play Bismack Biyombo, but I think that's the guy that's going to cut into more. Instead of just Biyombo replacing like they have been Zeller for Biyombo, you're going to see more PJ Washington at the 5, which obviously can help the guards as well. So I think in tournaments, you can make a case that Zeller maybe has the opportunity to not hit his ceiling because of that. And if that's the case, it's because PJ Washington's going to benefit. So if you're out there building lineups and you're building 150 teams, I want to make sure I'm putting in a rule. No PJ Washington and no Cody Zeller together, right? Keep them off of the same teams. If you want to play both of them, just make sure you're not doing that. Because if you play them together, I think they're dead lineups. Would you agree, Bobby?
Yeah, they definitely negatively correlate. Usually if they PJ Washington, what's he 6'3" and Zeller's 4'5", it's just mainly the matchup. Brooks going to pull one of them in this instance, and when that becomes a situation, one of them is going to get the rebounds. I don't mind playing some PJ Washington in tournaments. I don't think it's the worst call. And in terms of Zeller, I was just trying to get away from Zeller anyways. So that was pretty much some of my reasoning, was that I just thought Brook would pull Zeller, or they just would go small in that instance and Zeller wouldn't see the minutes. There's also there's some props that I don't like that would be negative towards Zeller. So I know projections like him, but in that case, it's usually a signal to me to kind of get different. And obviously ownership is going to be condensed. So another reason to get different at the center position with Zeller.
Yep. I think we kind of covered that game for sure. We got a couple things in news that came across. But before we do that, guys, hit that like, hit that subscribe on the video. Helps us out a ton over here at Run Pure Sports. I do want to mention we got Gary Trent. He's going to stay in the starting lineup. And we got Nasir Little, who is starting for the injured Derrick Jones Jr. Any Nasir Little love for you on that Portland game, Bobby?
Not really the biggest Nas Little guy, but haven't really rerun anything. So what's his fantasy point per minute? Do we have let me pull
it's probably terrible. I'm not trying to play
absolutely
him.
No love for Nasir Little. He's someone I'd probably be trying to not roster.
Yeah, that's something I'll look at, like when the projections update right over here, go up to our lineup builder. I'll look and see, like, what are the projections saying? What are the minutes looking like? And then I'll try and make an evaluation from that. He's not someone I'm itching to play, but I will say, if you look at 2v2s,
you're not playing Nasir Little.
Probably not, but you never know what the 2v2 is going to look like. It's something you have to check out, but I probably won't play him. You're more than likely right. Let's go over to the next game. We have the Portland Trailblazers. We have the Chicago Bulls, and is it Dame time, right? Dame has been absolutely crushing it. He gets Chicago of all teams, which is one that you can absolutely destroy defensively. They play at one of the faster paces in the league. The Blazers, they are 2.5-point dogs. I think it's a great spot to just load up on Dame. What about you, Bobby?
Yeah, so it has been Dame time with CJ out. For me, he would be the second piece that I think is going to be pretty highly owned that I might want to differentiate just because the point guard position is so strong on the slate. But I understand why a lot of people would play him. If I was MMEing, I'd probably be a little above the field or just with the field. Like, he's not someone I'd be fading. So maybe I think I'm just JSU in it tonight. I'll probably 3 max. Maybe I'll have him in one lineup. I don't know, in terms of, like, I just feel like he's going to be someone who's going to be really highly owned. And if you want to win tournaments, and he doesn't hit with the lack of value, or if you just go in a different direction, you might have more of a ceiling, I would say. But that could be a horrible take by the end of the night. So we'll see. I know you're on him heavy.
Of course. I mean, because he's playing next to Little, man. He's playing next to him. Like, he's got all the usage in the world.
Point. So maybe I shouldn't overthink the Dame. Maybe I'm overthinking Dame.
That's what I think. But I will say the reason to maybe not play Dame, right? It's not because he could do well or he could fail. I think he's going to do well. I think the reason to not play Dame, if you're going to make that case, is because you look at the other guards on the slate. There are a lot of really good guards that we haven't even got to that you can make a case have a ceiling that, not that they can match Dame, right? But if I told you Dame went for 60 and some of these 7 and 8K guys went for 55, you wouldn't be shocked, right? It would not be surprising at all. So that's the reason I think to make the argument. What about Gary Trent? The price has gone up. I think he's fine. I also think Carmelo Anthony is a really interesting option. He's not afraid to shoot. I like guys that are not afraid to shoot, right? And he's going to get decent amount of usage. And then Enes Kanter's another guy. If you want to kind of get different off the Cody Zeller possible chalk, paying up for Enes Kanter is a way to do it. I feel like I've been looking at JSU's core plays lately. And
he loves him. Absolutely loves him.
Yeah, and I think if JSU, I don't know if he's doing cores today, but if he was, I think he'd be going to Enes Kanter. It felt like he did that the other day, and I think that would be what he would be doing today. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Check out his core plays or ask him in the Discord chat. But what do you think of all those guys on Portland?
Yeah, so Melo was the one that I had the most interest in, and we'll see if he hits the starting lineup. It's just because he would be the guy that I think would take shots away from Dame and maybe hurt Dame's path in terms of, like, getting to that value. And obviously Kanter as well would be someone that I think you could play Kanter and Melo together. Like, it's been done. It worked like a couple days ago. For me, like, that was a group I was considering, was just grouping Carmelo away from Dame. But with him, if he's not starting, then it's just a whole totally different situation. Maybe like the usage off the bench. We just got no Bucks will be rested on Saturday, so maybe your Giannis play is intact in terms of trying to get to him. But just staying with the Blazers, like, yeah, I don't mind Gary Trent, I don't mind Enes, don't mind Melo. I would just make a group, right? if you have Dame, you don't want too many of these guys, and you kind of want to pick and choose who you're gonna be putting in. And Melo would be someone that I kind of keep away from Lillard.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely think that makes sense. I do want to mention Matt Root in the chat said, just tell us JSU's core plays. Like, that's why you pay for the premium, right? I mean, we give away some free stuff, but listen, we're not giving away that, right? That's the goods, and you got to sign up for that. So use the code Workbench21 to get 25% off. If you want to sign up for that, you get 25% off of your first payment. So let's go over and talk about the Bulls side. Is there any interest over there? Wendell Carter Jr. is out. We were playing some of these guys in the front court. I don't think it's a great spot, but you can make the case. It's like, hey, it's Portland. They play no defense, and the Bulls are favorites. So, like, you wouldn't be shocked if Zach LaVine had 50 fantasy points. You wouldn't be shocked if at 6.9K, Cody White went for like 45. So I think the guards are in play, but I don't know what to do with some of these other guys. I guess Thaddeus Young is a cheap value play, specifically on FanDuel. You could go to DraftKings. He's more priced up at 5K, but that's kind of my overall breakdown on the Bulls. I always want to attack Portland, Bobby, but I'm having trouble doing it today in cash.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like, these guys are pretty priced up. I think getting different in tournaments with LaVine and White would probably be the route for me. Kobe White's going to come in very low owned, and I think he's a fine tournament play. What's his price on FD? He could be, like, if you're going to go down from Dame on FD, which I feel like Dame's going to be very chalky in FD, just differentiating the structure there, like with a strong position, like maybe you could go to Kobe. Yeah, I don't know. For me, like, it'd be Kobe White and LaVine. Not really much love for these Bulls. Maybe Otto Porter, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I think Thad Young on DK, he's still in play, but FanDuel, again, like, I want to mention it one more time, he is underpriced over there. He's at 4.2K. The problem is, do you play Tillman, who's in the next game at 4.6? Do you spend up for guys? Not to say you have to lock button Thad Young, but I think he's a very strong value over there. You need to consider. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that one. We got someone in the chat, Randy. He's asking, what is this core play stuff and the code again? So Bobby, how do you tell the people what the core plays are? And I believe you're on them today.
I'm on cores today. I didn't even realize that. I should.
I don't know. Are you might not be. I'm not sure. I just figured
you
might not
be. Yeah, I think Title was on, and just basically, like, our coordinators giving out our core plays for tournaments. Mangone and Hoop obviously do a cash sheet. I think JT Hayes and Cooper on cores for NBA tonight. I had the Yahoo core, I think, but I already filled that out. I'll change it as news kind of trickles in, but I think we've gotten a lot of the news that we're likely going to get. Actually, it's an 8-game slate, so who knows? So core plays just pretty much our core plays for tournaments, and then you have the cash sheet. You can kind of mix in the cash sheet, which is done by Hoop and Mangone, in our cores, and I think that's a really good way to attack tournaments. A lot of these sites, they do a lot of projections, stuff like that. We're a little bit different. We give you definitive plays in that sense, so just a little easier than sifting through projections and trying to figure out who the best plays are. Like, we're all doing this pretty much all day. So when you have that 9 to 5, you come home, you check out the cores, maybe you see something you like, throw in JSU's core, use the cash chart, mix it up a little. Could work out for you. That would be how I would utilize it. Any thoughts, man, going around that?
Yeah, so I want to mention the Yahoo cores today. We got Bobby, you're on that. JSU is on it. We got Mikey on it. FanDuel, we got Titletown. We got JSU, JT Hayes, Coop. And then DraftKings, we got AP, JSU, JT, and Coop. And I'm not going to give away JSU's core, but, like, just to give you an idea, right? He's got one point guard listed. He's got a shooting guard, a small forward, 2 power forwards in a center, right? And then you kind of figure out your other spots, right? So that kind of gives you a little breakdown of it. Use that code Workbench21. Workbench21 to get 25% off your first payment.
I'm looking at JSU's core right now. I'm liking where JSU's head's at. My head aligns with JSU's. I like that. So
yeah, I like his too for the FanDuel. Maybe I'll put in a GVP one there and use his. I'll have to see. But I think that wraps up that game for us. Let's head on over to the next one. Let's talk Kings and let's talk the Heat. Miami, they are fully healthy, right? Or maybe not fully healthy. Dragic is still out, but they got Hero back. They have Butler back. They're just a full fade for me. How about you?
Yeah, full fade for me. Like, this is where we were expecting value. I think this is a big tell on the slate that unless we get something drastic, the slate for value is going to be pretty skimp. So, like I said, a lot of usage is going to be condensed. A lot of builds are going to be very similar. So differentiating your construction situationally will definitely help you in tournaments. On the king side, like maybe Fox. A lot of people talking about Whiteside. Like Whiteside doesn't seem like the most vengeful guy. I know he had a great game last night. He's not someone I really would want to go back to. If people are like going that way, that's like I have no interest. But yeah, my guy would be Halliburton. I just feel like he's played so well. I know you got the NFT today, but I think like a way you can differentiate your construction is maybe playing him at the point guard on DraftKings, than paying up for a guy like Levine at shooting guard, or I don't know, just like different ways. Like he's in that range where he's in that Zeller price range. Like if you're not playing Zeller, he's a piece that's like right around that price. That I think is pretty interesting. He would be my favorite play in this game and on the Kings. How about you?
Yeah, so like I said, here are the full fade, but on the Kings side, I'm really, really interested in Halliburton, the guy that you mentioned. I think he's a really cheap option right now. I think that it's pretty, if you look at kind of like the last, like, I don't know, I think it's 3 games the Kings have been playing. So they were getting torched defensively, absolutely destroyed. And I think what they decided to do was they said, listen, this is not working out. Whatever we're doing, this is not it. We need to kind of change it up, figure out what's going to work. And they decided to more so, they have like the double big lineup for a little bit, but they don't play it as much as you would think, right? They were just running it often. And they were getting destroyed defensively. So now they're kind of staggering a little bit more. They're playing more Halliburton, which is definitely helping them out. I personally think that Halliburton is a really phenomenal player. He's probably their second best player on their team right now. He could maybe at some point be better than De'Aaron Fox, and I would not be surprised. I think he's absolutely a terrific kid. I want to get some exposure to him today. I think he's a really good turnaround option, and he's on my cash chart today. So definitely check that out. He might even become a core play. I still haven't decided yet, but I think
end up being a core play.
I'm not sure. I mean, it depends on how everything shakes up, but I do feel like shooting guard is a little weak, right? And I think that he could get a lot of ownership. I don't know. Levine is obviously a great spend-up option that you can go to, but I don't know if I have the salary to do that. And it depends on how much value that we get throughout the rest of the night, right? We are about an hour and 17 minutes away from lock. So it depends kind of what happens. But I think Tyrese Halliburton definitely is someone that I'm going to be looking at. I saw Hassan Whiteside popping a little bit, Bobby.
Do not chase Whiteside, please. Unless you can talk me into why you should chase him. I would not be chasing that game last night. Do you have any, would you consider that?
No, so I am currently not chasing Hassan Whiteside. I will say it's a slate where I don't love the value, right? Like I have a couple plays I like, but you can make the case if we're looking at some 2v2s, like let's say the combo is, like let's say you like Giannis and you like Damian Lillard, right? Let's say it's 2 mid-tier guys or Whiteside and a Lillard. Like Whiteside has a ceiling. The way that Whiteside ends up getting run is if any of those guys get in foul trouble. You need a Bagley or a Holmes to get into foul trouble for him to get that full 20 or 22 minutes of run. Now, you could also make the argument he's really cheap, and we saw Alex Len get 0 fantasy points one day this year. I believe it was on a Saturday too. We saw him get 0 fantasy points and someone won a GVP. Now, I know that's an anomaly, right? But
so that's a
I get it, Bobby, but there are situations where guys, they get 8 fantasy points and they're really cheap, and you can still win the slate if you're going to get those extreme ceilings. In cash games, do not play Whiteside, in my opinion, right now. That's my current thought. Maybe something changes after lock, or I read maybe a coach quote where Whiteside's getting more run, and I didn't see that before, but I don't understand why he's going to get the run. It's only if there's foul issues. Yes, can he get there in 15 minutes? Sure, but I'm not chasing him, expecting him to get this 25-point game or hit this ceiling and play a lot more. That's kind of my overall take on it. Anything else there to mention with Whiteside, Bobby?
Yeah, Rashawn Holmes would be probably the only big that I'd be interested in. I definitely would have interest if I was at a meeting, just because he has to deal with Bam. He's played well also. Bagley hasn't been closing, so that's kind of the reason we're both on Halliburton is Halliburton's closed these last 2 games. I know previously it kind of had flip-flopped, like it was Halliburton, then Bagley came back and started closing, and then now it's Halliburton again. So I would Halliburton's a good play. He's probably be the guy that I'd put my focus on.
All right. Well, I got too much more to say about that game. I think it's one I'm going to be, not getting too much exposure to that Kings and Heat game. Let's go to the next one. I don't know if I'm playing many guys in this game either. We got the Lakers and we got the Celtics. 218.5 total, and the Lakers are road favorites. LeBron and Davis, expect them to be in. I'm sure they're already in. They're always questionable every day. Don't worry about that questionable tag if you see it on any of the sites. And then the Celtics side, they're just healthier, right? I don't think I can be really playing too many guys in this game, but that's going to come with low ownership, Bobby, and that could be maybe something that you're interested in. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, so the usage for the Celtics stars is extremely condensed, but we haven't really seen games with Kemba involved. There's only really been one with Kemba, Tatum, and Brown. I'm probably staying away from the Celtics here, but I don't like, this is more of a good basketball game than an actual DFS game. The one guy that I would have interest in is Anthony Davis at 9-3, just because he fits that like center position that is going to be, there's not a ton of value at the center position. So he would be a way to differentiate construction. He has power forward center eligibility, and that would pretty much be it. Like, I'm not interested in any of these Celtics ancillary pieces or the Lakers for that matter. It's weird, real good basketball game, but not a ton of DFS love. I feel like you'd probably have the same perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a fun game to watch, but I'm not going out here and just loading up on these guys in DFS. I mean, sure, you look at some of these prices and they feel cheap, right? Kemba at 6.5 feels cheap. Tatum at 8.5 feels cheap. If I am playing a Davis, like let's say Davis, 9.3 Cam, like that's a pretty cheap price tag. I'm going to run it back with like a Tatum. And then that's how I'll build those teams out if I do that, because then I'm just basically saying, hey, like this game could be more competitive. And then those guys could have those ceiling games. But again, I don't want to mess with this game too much. I just don't think it's necessary. I understand it's going to come at really low ownership. And if you do want to kind of attack with those two guys, like a Davis and Tatum stack, then feel free to fill out a lot of chalk with it, right? Like if you think Cody Zeller chalk is good chalk, then plug that thing in, right? I think that's definitely a great way to kind of approach it if you want to in tournaments. But again, not my approach, and I'm not the tournament guy. So not for me.
So I will say, like, this is a 2-point spread, and the usage is pretty condensed on both sides. So in that instance, like, if they hit OT and you have guys from this game in tournaments, if you're at multi-entering, like I would definitely have some exposure to this game.
All right. That'll wrap up that game. We do have one thing that Randy mentioned in the chat. We'll kind of go back and discuss it. I just want to get your take on it. He said Butler might be the play with no minutes restriction in the Kings. They allow 20. I think they're ranked 29th in points allowed per shooting guards. By the way, it's the Kings, right? Like a guard against the Kings typically can do well. Did we overlook Jimmy Butler too much, or what's your kind of thoughts there?
We may have overlooked Jimmy Butler.
He's 7-3, right? It's a really nice price tag.
225 team total, like third highest in the slate. We may have overlooked Jimmy Butler and Bam for that matter. Like Bam would be another guy that you'd definitely consider. And Bam's another way to kind of get different at the center position. Yeah, I don't mind either of those guys, especially if you're playing Halliburton and kind of run it back. My thing with running it back is on these bigger slates, like I don't think you need to do it as much as if it was like a 5 or 6 game slate. It is an 8 game slate, but I don't think you need to do it as much.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I don't think you have to run back as many things. Like I think if you are running back stuff, it's like again, it doesn't have to be like Davis with Tatum, right? But it has to be things I think that have some type of correlation. And I think the better correlations to work on are, we kind of talked about in Discord chat earlier. And I'm not saying you have to do it, but we'll talk about it here because we're about to dive into the Memphis game. We got the Grizzlies and we have the Spurs. 219.5 total, and the Spurs are 4-point favorites. And this is the thing that we were going to mention. It's no, it's no secret. Xavier Tillman is probably going to be pretty chalky today, correct? You can roster him at center. You can roster him at forward if you want. A lot of ways to go. We talked about Brandon Clark and Xavier Tillman, and I was saying someone basically was talking about playing both those guys in the same team, and I think Xavier Tillman is cheap enough where I think you could play both of them, but I do think you have to dive into the data a little bit. You can make a case that if Brandon Clark hits his ceiling, Xavier Tillman might not hit his ceiling also, and you might want to go into the lineup builder and just make sure those guys are on separate teams when you're building out your lineups. What do you think about that one, Bobby?
So on this slate, I think you can play them together. Tillman's at 3.5. His prop number is like points, rebounds, assists. I just want to pull it up. Something I was looking at earlier. Just over 17.5 minus 125. So if you're adding up points, rebounds, and assists, like that's a pretty good number. Yeah, I think you can play the two of them together, and I think that Brandon Clark is undervalued, like 6'1" for what we've seen when Joe Bell is kind of out of the lineup. I don't mind. I think that they're fine. Like Tillman's it's just Tillman's price. Like if Tillman was 5K, then I'd probably think differently about it. But just in the threes, like I'm not too worried about it. But I get the case you're making. Like it's definitely something you should look into. But I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I guess the one reason maybe to say it's not as necessary is I don't think the value is amazing on this slate.
Yeah, that would be like the biggest. I would say be the biggest argument. Like just not to worry about it.
Yeah, let's say Luka randomly got ruled out right now. Let's just say that happened. Well, then we'd be plugging in Brunson as a value and Trey Burke, and then it'd be like, okay, that makes more of a case to maybe not go with that approach, right? Maybe so. That's kind of my overall thoughts on it. I saw Kyle Anderson's a guy that's been popping a little more than I expected for an 8-game slate.
I saw that too. Yeah,
it's because small forward's not the best today, right? I think that's kind of the reasoning behind it. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's not great. I don't know if it's like as bad to where I'd play Kyle Anderson with Ja Morant back. I know that you're taking Valanciunas out of the lineup, but Slow-Mo is just a tough roster for me. It could be recency bias, but I know he's been better this year. I don't really go there too much.
I don't think he's the worst, but I mean, if you looked at the game logs, right? Look at the last 5, 25, 25, 31, 24.25, 34, and 29. It's not that bad. I mean, I think some of those games might be without Ja. I can't remember because they've been kind of on and off the slate. But at 5'6", at a tougher position to roster, I don't hate it for sure. It's a spot where if he got 29, he could be on the winning team. If he got 27, I wouldn't be surprised he was on the winning team because of how poor the small forward position is today. What about Ja Morant? Now, 7-1 is really cheap against a Spurs team that they give up a ton of baskets at the rim. I could see Ja Morant have a monster game today. He's someone I like a ton. How are you approaching him, Bobby?
Yeah, so Ja Morant's probably my favorite play on the slate at the point guard position. It's just a really good spot versus the Spurs, not really playing a ton of defense. You're obviously taking Valanciunas out of that situation. Like I really like Ja. I think he's a really strong play, and I'll probably have him in the majority of my lineups. Any thoughts from your perspective from the cash game side?
Yeah, so here's kind of the overall problem on this slate. Like, there's a lot of guards I want to spend on. Like, let me just go to the guard position now and kind of like break it all down. So if I pull up the point guards on the slate and just look at them and just the point guards only, I think Ja Morant at 7-1 is a really great play. I think Damian Lillard to spend up on is a great play. You can make the case that Steph Curry at 9-7 in a game that you expect them to probably win, he probably has a pretty good game. Chris Paul at 7-6 with no Booker against Dallas, who struggled defensively. Sign me up. That's a really interesting price tag. John Wall at 6'8". I mean, that's a decently cheap price. I know New Orleans isn't the easiest matchup in the world, but I think he's in play. Murray, I know Derek White is back. I'm not expecting him to cut in too much, but at 6'3", I know he has a ceiling, especially against a team like Memphis. So there's a lot of guards just overall to play on this slate. And that's just guards, right? I didn't go and talk about any of the point guards. I didn't talk about Halliburton. I didn't talk about Zach LaVine. There's just so many guards that you can roster that I don't know if I'm for sure playing Ja. He's a guy that I want to try and prioritize. He's on my cash sheet right now. I'm going to see how it kind of works when I do all of my construction and moving things around. I think he's one of the better guard spend-ups, though, on this slate. Talk about the Spurs side for me. And do you think Derek White is going to kind of mess things up there and muddy up the situation? Break it all down for me, Bobby.
Yeah, so obviously DeJounte Murray at 6'3", and DeMar DeRozan at 7K are just extremely underpriced. What's DeMar at? Oh, he's at 7K. So
yeah, it's a good price again against a team that is going to probably struggle against the at the rim, right, Bobby? I mean, DeRozan's got to be a great play.
Yeah, I feel like prior to the White news, I probably would have preferred DeJounte, but now I think I'd probably prefer DeMar. And also, I don't mind Keldon Johnson as well. Keldon Johnson's a baller, man. I like that guy. I feel like we're going to be playing a lot of him in DFS like in the next couple of years. Yeah, so it would probably be DeMar, DeJounte, then Keldon for me from the Spurs. Like Aldridge at 5'4", people aren't going to play Aldridge. I know he's been so bad. But yeah, if Zeller like still is chalk after all this news clears, like maybe in tournaments you could have like if you're multi-entering, you can have some exposure to Aldridge. Just a good matchup. So I don't know. I wouldn't go there, but just something to think about, I guess. How about you? What are your feelings?
Well, I don't need to play Aldridge on this slate. I'm just going to pass. I think it's either DeRozan or Murray for me. And here's a great Popovich quote for you that just came across the timeline. Asked how he's going to handle minutes with Derek coming back, Pop says to the reporter, "You just do." He said every game is different. Game calls for different adjustments as the game goes. He's going to make those decisions. So we don't know what he's going to do.
No idea. More Bill Belichickian or Greg Popovichian. That's like the typical answer from those two, right? Just absolutely nothing. So.
Yeah, we had a couple more news things that came across. It has to do with the Kings, so I'll ask you about it. So Luke Walton said that with Rashawn Holmes playing well and Hassan Whiteside healthy, the plan is to leave Bagley primarily at power forward, with Harrison Barnes getting the minutes at power forward that don't go to Bagley. Bagley played a lot of center after the injuries last season. So, Bagley's minutes have been more down. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this whole situation. Is that going to help Whiteside more? I mean, that's definitely more encouraging for Whiteside, but I don't know. I'm definitely torn on how to handle it all now.
Yeah, it's more encouraging for Whiteside if you're really diving into the coach speak. The issue is it's Luke Walton's coach speak. So then in that instance, I'd probably be a little tentative.
And the other problem, I think, Bobby, is with Harrison Barnes getting power forward.
Yeah, Harrison Barnes getting minutes is just ridiculous to me, but was it you? I just was listening to some show, it might have been you the other day, basically talking about how Harrison Barnes is a centerpiece for Walton.
Yeah, he's Luke Walton was the quote at the last game of the bubble was he's the heart and soul of the team. But they want to play with him. It's just they want to. So it's that just, I mean, I don't know. I can't dive too much into it, but it's he's going to play power forward minutes.
If you're a competent NBA coach and you think that playing Harrison Barnes over Marvin Bagley is good for your organization and team. So, but we have no say. So what are we going to do?
Yeah, let's talk about one more news thing that came by. De'Aaron Fox, they said he's feeling fine after knee-to-knee contact. Does that help Halliburton maybe a little bit on a back-to-back? I think they played yesterday, correct? Or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I think they're on a back-to-back. I could be wrong also. I think it helps Halliburton. I would be cautious about Fox situationally with the knee. Knees are a tough thing to kind of, I don't know. If I was Luke, I'm not trying to get in his head, but I'd probably give more minutes to Halliburton. Just maybe a minute or two to Halliburton to kind of ease the situation for Fox, I guess, if it's something that's bothering him.
Yep, I'm with you on that. And I think this is the time to move on. Steve Anthony says Millsap over Aldridge, and that is correct. Never LaMarcus Aldridge. He is the worst. Rather play Millsap of all people. Instead.
I get it.
Let's go talk Suns and Mavericks. And this is a great one, man. There's a lot to talk about here. Luka is phenomenal. Always a great spend-up option. Bobby, let's start there. Are you spending on Luka?
Yeah, I'll probably have majority Luka tonight. Like this game, like DeAndre Ayton, like Chris Paul, you're taking Booker out of the situation and they're really getting the usage boost. Also, a guy like Cameron Johnson, I don't hate as well. Miles Bridges, Jay Crowder, these are value pieces that they're not great value, but on the slate, with the value that we have, they can be a last spot in type guys. I don't hate that if they're last spot in guys. Yeah, and Porzingis at the center position, if he's playing center versus Ayton defense, that's a way to kind of differentiate construction, right? And he's played well at center. He's at 7.5 on DK. I don't hate going to Porzingis at center the more I think about it, with just getting Ayton's defense, and I don't know, I think it's a good game atmosphere as well. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Porzingis at 7.5, I'll admit, I rostered him yesterday a little bit. Tough to stomach another round.
It's a game time decision for Porzingis right now.
Yeah, he's questionable. So I don't know what's going to happen, right? It's 9:00 game. And obviously if Porzingis is in or out, I'm someone that thinks that Porzingis being in still helps him. And obviously out, it helps Luka too. I don't think it's a big hit, right? It's not hey, Anthony Davis is out, plug LeBron in. I don't feel that way when it comes to Luka. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm of the same mindset. I think you can actually play – I wouldn't do it or try to go out of my way to do it, but I think you could get away with playing Porzingis and Luka together. But I think Luka would need – actually, no, you can't do that because Luka's going to need Yeah, it doesn't hurt as much as it would be like AD LeBron situation, right?
Yeah, I think it's fine either way. And again, there's Dame's a good spend up. Giannis, Luka, they're all really strong spend ups today. The problem is the pace, right? The pace of the Suns is the issue. You're going to get less possessions when you're playing a team like that. They grind it out, and you're going to get Chris Paul defense, right? That's not a joke. He's obviously a really good defender. And then you have DeAndre Ayton in this game, who at 7.8K. He has a really nice ceiling, but the problem is he has downside too. If he struggles or if he gets into foul trouble, there's a chance he doesn't see time. And I don't know if you saw the other night, Bobby, absolutely wild. Frank Kaminsky almost triple-doubled in 24 minutes. He had 12 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists of all people. So I don't know if that's going to cut into his time because of how well he played. I honestly don't know. I don't think so. It's really the guy I'm looking at is Chris Paul at 7.6K. I think he's a really strong guard play. Like I mentioned, all these different guards are really good. And I like Mikal Bridges a bit. And the thing I'll mention with Bridges and why I think he could get some really nice run and some more usage his way is if you watched the other night, he was covering Curry the entire time. If you saw Curry goes out, Bridges goes out. Curry goes in, not Chris Paul going in, Bridges goes in because they wanted him defensively running around on Curry. And he was actually running that second unit. If you watched in the third quarter, he had a massive, massive ceiling. He ended up putting up 17 real life points in that second half because he was running that second unit offense. And with Frank Kaminsky and them just kind of going back and forth, it was working really well. And I would not be surprised if you saw Bridges kind of cover Luka more and play a little bit of that second point guard run. So what do you kind of think of that overall? Mikal Bridges at 6.1K as a good tournament option.
Wow, if he was playing the point, I love Bridges situationally. I was leaning towards Cam Johnson ahead of him, but if that's the situation, I would definitely prefer.
Well, so if you pull it up, like I'll pull up Popcorn Machine now, and like he wasn't running. I mean, he was running the point for a little bit of time. It's not like he was running it the whole time, but at one point in the third quarter, it was on the floor was Bridges, Langston Galloway, Etuan Moore, Frank Kaminsky, and Abdel Nader, and he crushed in that time. I mean, he got a lot of his points throughout that situation, and if they do that again here, that's going to be really good for him. I think he has a bit of a ceiling and an upside if they do that again. It's just the question is, will they? Javon Carter was a DMP last game, though. Will he be a DMP again? And he wasn't really a DMP. He got 3 minutes at the end, but he was going to be a DMP. The game just blew out, and they had to put someone in. But, yeah, that's kind of why I think Bridges could be interesting. If they kind of do the same thing that they did the last game, I think he could get that kind of second unit run, and it could be a little sneaky.
Yeah, it's definitely sneaky, and you're playing with a small forward position as well, which is kind of meek. So I definitely don't hate that call. We'll be interested in maybe rostering some Mikal Bridges tonight, I guess. I'm trying to run back one of those Dallas guys, whether it's Luka or Porzingis.
Yeah, so if Porzingis is out, Bobby, how do you want to handle that team, right? Do you want to go to Willie Cauley-Stein? Is it Boban season against some of those bigs that can't really get out of the paint too much, right? So I don't know what to do with the big men here. I'm not so excited about these guys, but if you look, I mean, Willie Cauley-Stein is 3.6K, and it is a slate where, hey, the value's not the greatest, and you're trying to look at ways to get off of some of these value plays. You mentioned not wanting to play Cody Zeller. Well, $900 cheaper, you could kind of backload a little bit and maybe go to some Willie Cauley-Stein.
Yeah, I like that call there. Mangone got Travis's mind working, get that tournament mind out there. Yeah, I don't mind backloading for WCS. I wish it wasn't WCS, but it's a good matchup for Satan. It's cheaper. If Porzingis were to sit, like they would definitely need him. So definitely don't hate that call. And I wouldn't mind building lineups or some lineups to backload for that exact situation. Yeah, that would pretty much be it. Maybe like Tim Hardaway gets a boost, and that's there obviously as well. Josh Richardson, those would be guys that would immediately become more. This thing that's really tough is it's just the last game on the slate, right? Pretty sure. The second.
It's the 9 o'clock one, and then there's 10 o'clock Pistons and Warriors. So you can obviously, you can pivot to like a Mason Plumlee later on if you want, or some of these other guys. You'd have to have some salary to do it, and you have to set up your team that way. Matt P says Powell over Willie Cauley-Stein, and that could be the case too. We haven't seen many of those guys, and they've been coming out of that COVID protocol. So you have to kind of dive into that more. And I'll admit I'm not currently diving into that, but if I get Porzingis out, then I probably will. I'll probably look at it a little deeper. One last thing I'll mention about this game, Cam Johnson, you talked about him. I know you liked him. He's 4-6 over on FanDuel, I believe, which is just too cheap. So that's another FanDuel price tag that I think is a really good value, but always on FanDuel, you don't need a million value plays, right? The stars and scrubs route is definitely a lot better on DraftKings when you see all those ceiling spots, and you might not need that for sure over on FanDuel. Let's head on over to the last game. Before we do that, guys, please hit that like on the video, hit the subscribe. We got 329 of you watching. We have 85 likes. As JT says, that's very hurtful, and we got to get those likes up. Please hit that like button for us. Detroit Pistons, Golden State Warriors, 220.5 total here, Bobby. And the Warriors are 5-point favorites. So I don't typically like to play too many Pistons, but if there's a spot to play the Pistons, it's when the game is close and when it's probably against the Golden State Warriors, because they play at a really fast pace and you get more possessions than your average against a team like this. It could be a good Jeremy Grant spot at 7.8K where he's had a massive ceiling. Blake Griffin is 5.9K. I'm not too excited about him, but I understand maybe going to him. Mason Plumlee at 5.4, a center that you could kind of get different from the Cody Zeller route, Bobby. Break it down for me. This Pistons side has to be interesting.
Yeah, we just got Anthony Davis is the game time decision.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
So that's big news, actually, because
that's big news.
Before we talk Pistons, talk Pistons, and then let's see if any more news comes in with it. Talk about this game, and then we'll touch on the Anthony Davis thing after.
Yeah, so obviously the guard position is really strong, right? And this is a game, like, you could see Steph, like, have one of his ceiling games. I know we haven't really seen it all year, but he's definitely going to be at a lower ownership clip. So I don't mind him. He's a little priced out. He's up to 9.7. I kind of wish he was, like, still in the 9.3, 9.4 range. But he's got some good numbers to back up why he'd be a good play, so I don't mind going to him here if you want to get different. I think I'd prefer Luka, but don't hate Steph. And yeah, running it back, like Jeremy Grant's a great play. Derrick Rose is someone I think, like if you're MMEing, he would be someone I'd give some love to in my player pool because he could just see, if he sees 20 to 25 minutes, then he's someone at that price tag at 5K where he could make value and he's not going to be very highly owned. Mason Plumlee 5.5. He's another one that I wouldn't mind at the center position. He's 1,000 more than Zeller. I don't mind backloading at center to kind of get up, like trying to wait to see if I don't have to play Zeller. If he's still like a main part of construction. Yeah, that would pretty much be it. I don't want to play Josh Jackson. He had a rough week, Josh Jackson, at 4.5, but he's at the Zeller price range. I think there's better players at the small forward position, and I think that you can just kind of go to those Suns guys. But I looked at him earlier. He came up in a couple builds, so I don't know. Any thoughts for you on the Detroit and Golden State situation, this game?
Yeah, I'll admit it's not one I'm like really loading up on too much. I think Andrew Wiggins at 6'3" is cheap, and he could obviously have a pretty nice ceiling here. Like
just Andrew Wiggins, right? Like Andrew, he's just so tough, man.
I don't mind. I mean, but small forward's not small forward's not the greatest.
Not good. No, I get why you're going there. He's at 6'3". Small forward's a bad position. I get why you're going there. I don't think he's the worst play. Oubre as well. Like I don't mind Oubre. You can continue. I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, no, you're good. And Oubre's a guy I did want to talk a little bit about. Like, he's going to keep chucking those threes up. Like, you can make a case for a lot of these guys. It's just not a game that I'm targeting too much. What about Wiseman? I assume he's not going to start. And, I mean, he's still been pretty good, even coming off the bench, right? Against Minnesota, who has a terrible front court. He had 36 points or fantasy points. And you could see him, like, you wouldn't be shocked at 4.8K if he went for, 35 fantasy points here. So what do you think of him maybe as an interesting pivot? Again, another one off of that center position, Bobby.
Yeah, no, I like the Wiseman call a lot. I'm not playing Draymond. This will probably be the night he goes off for me saying that. But, yeah, I'd definitely be more interested in playing Wiseman when you have Mason Plumlee, Blake Griffin. Like, they're going to need size pretty much for the Warriors. So going on Wiseman, I don't think is the worst call. I like that call a lot. And he's right in that Zeller price range. So definitely have some interest there now that you brought him up.
Yeah, and actually, let's not talk too much about this game. Before we go to the Davis stuff, let's talk about the Rockets and Pelicans. I skipped it.
We forgot that game. I didn't know if you noticed.
That's not we. That's me. I messed up. So that's my bad. So Cody Rogers pointed out in the chat, and I did mention John Wall at one point, right? I talked about him, but there's other guys to talk about for sure. Their starting lineup is John Wall, Victor Oladipo, Tate, PJ Tucker, and Christian Wood, who, man, he was phenomenal the other day. And it's a little revenge game against the Pelicans. So talk about the Rocket side for me, Bobby. Break it all down.
Yeah, Rocket side is interesting, right? Christian Wood, Wall, Oladipo, all these guys. Oladipo's just going to shoot. My thing is, like, I want them, like, I think there was coach speak around playing Cousins with Christian Wood, which they haven't done yet. And I think that Cousins seemed like 11 minutes last game. Like, he's not someone you obviously want to play, but there would be reason for them to kind of go to Cousins here, just having Steven Adams to deal with, also Zion and Brandon Ingram. Like, the Pelicans have a good bit of size. So maybe Cousins in, like, large field GPPs if you want to get exposure. He's in that center position in 1.48 fantasy points per minute for DeMarcus Cousins. Like, if he sees 30 minutes at 1% ownership and everyone doesn't want to play him because they think that he's just going to get 11 minutes again, he could absolutely crush. So he'd be someone like I'd have interest in from this game. That's kind of like a little different. Zion at 7.4 is just too cheap. Zion doesn't do like the stuff you want him to do in terms of the ancillary statistics, but he's at a good price to where like scoring will kind of just get him there. You would think like he'd rebound more and do a lot of other stuff. I definitely prefer Zion and Brandon Ingram if I was just going from the Pelican side. And on the Houston side for guards, AP had a nice call with Wall the other night. But if I was going to go tonight, like I'd probably go to Oladipo. Your thoughts there? I haven't really figured out like what I want to do with the Houston Rocket guards. And I like Christian Wood also. I should be going more into depth, but I haven't really I had some lineups with him, but I don't know. I'm kind of thinking through it still.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised at how like great like Wood was the other day with all the other like usage guys that were there. But I don't love the Rocket side too much. I think Wall is a good guard option, but that's really it, at least for my cash games. You can make cases and turns from these guys, but there's a lot there. On the Pelican side, the problem is there are a lot of guys there too. So it's like you can't roster too many of the Pelicans. You have to be careful. But the prices have gone down a bit, right? Yeah, Eric Bledsoe at 5'8", who I still think is in play. I think that Zion Williamson at 7.4K, I think he's my favorite play of all the guys on the Pelicans. I think he has a massive ceiling opportunity against a Rockets team that I'm not scared of them defensively. I think this is a really good spot for Zion at 7.4. I think he's way too underpriced for the amount of rates that he is seeing. So big fan of him. Steven Adams is okay. He's like more of like a cash game. If I just need a guy in there that's safe and should do okay. Yeah, I wouldn't hate going in, but not a guy I'm like, plugging and playing and lock buttoning. And then, that's kind of it really for the Pelicans and Rocket side. It's really Zion and Wall are probably my two favorite guys.
Zion, you could also play at the center position, right? So I think that's a way to kind of differentiate your construction, I would say. I don't know, man. I wish Cousins would get the minutes here. That revenge narrative. Cousins is a vengeful person. He's not Hassan Whiteside. I feel like he would like this situation. So I don't know. It'd be nice, but he got 11 minutes last game, and I wouldn't touch it.
It's just an 8-game slate, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm just like, I don't know if I can do it, right? I think it's too much, and he's too priced up, and the price has to go down. I'll wait a week or two till that price goes down, maybe to consider that more. Let's talk about the Anthony Davis situation. Now he is going to warm up. I'm pulling it up now. It's a little further down on my feed, so give me 1 second. See, he's testing his quad on the court, and they'll have an update when he's done, making him a true game time decision. Now, I don't know how long that's going to take, but we have 45 minutes until lock, and then the game starts at 8:30, right? So we might get that news a little before. What do you kind of think of overall that quote?
Yeah, testing his quad. I would immediately bring LeBron James into like consideration at 10-3. He would obviously become a really good play, just seeing a lot of that usage. And this is the game LeBron would probably get up for, right? Like Celtics, I would assume it's national TV.
It is. It's ESPN or ABC, I think. So, how does he sit? I don't know if he sits because it's the ABC game. Don't they get in trouble?
this will be the spot that he just is like passive, and like you would think like he's going to go off or just try to be on national TV LeBron, but I think everyone was kind of hoping for that the other night when everyone was out. It wasn't national TV, and he went off. I don't know. I still attend for him to play LeBron. That's a bad take. He will not be passive. LeBron's going to crash if it's Celtics Lakers on national TV.
More than likely, but who knows, right? It's the Lakers. You never know what can happen. And Cody's got a question in the chat. He said Crowder for the Suns. We didn't talk about him too much, but I think he's getting priced up more, and he's okay. What do you think of him?
Yeah, I definitely prefer Bridges and Johnson to Crowder, but he has played well. So I don't hate it, but like with the lack of value, I think if you land on him and as the last guy in, you can go there, but he's not someone I'm like trying to fit in my builds.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Last guy in, like, sure, if he kind of lands there, but I don't know if I'm going to end up landing on him today. Landed on him more the other day and I ended up going Carmelo, and I wouldn't be shocked if I said it again. Hey, let me go Carmelo for 400 less instead of a guy like Crowder. Bobby, I guess, do you got like we don't have the workbench play, Big T's not here for that, but you got like your favorite play?
I could still give the workbench play.
Okay, Bob. I mean, your birthday's coming up. You better be able to, right? So give me your play of the day. Who is it for me?
Yeah, now I just put myself on the spot. Let me go through here. Do you have any plays that you would like to kind of shoot out there, and then I can?
Yeah. So I'll ramble and stall for you a little bit. So I thought I was thinking of a play that I would maybe give like, and again, like I'm more of a cash game guy. I'm not looking for this off the board guy. Like if you're looking for a 2% owned guy for me, it's typically not going to come from me. One candidate I thought about was like Halliburton, but he's going to be kind of chalkier. Ja Morant's another guy. I was like, I think Ja Morant is like an absolute like stone, like just absolute smash spot kind of play, but there's a lot of guards on the slate. I don't know exactly what his ownership will be. I can pull it up here right now and just double check. Again, there's a lot of guards that end up playing on this slate, and Ja's coming in on this one as, let's see, I'm not seeing him as like too high of an own guy, at least from what I'm looking at here, unless I'm misreading something. But yeah, let me go with Ja Morant. That'll be my guy on this slate. That he's 7.1K. He's gonna have that flame emoji at the end of the night. He'll be my workbench play.
All right, so now I'm up. I'm gonna go Jeremy Grant, 7-8. For the Detroit Pistons. I think he's going to be the guy that I'm going to roll with for the workbench tonight. Going to be low owned, has a high usage, has probably the most improved player in the league this year. I know it's just I feel like he's a good play. You can play him at small forward and power forward. So I don't mind a little Jeremy Grant tonight.
Yeah, I like that. And we just got news. We'll touch upon that news and then we'll get on out of here. And we talked about it a little bit already. Kristaps Porzingis is out.
Porzingis is out.
So adjustments are going to have to be made, but let's talk about it. So Luke, Porzingis is out. No Kristaps today.
Oh, if we get AD out too, if AD's out, who's going to get minutes for the Lakers as well? We didn't really go into that.
Oh, well, I mean, Harrell obviously would get minutes. He would be someone I would look at. You can make a case for short Ayers usage a little, but I don't think I need to. I think it'd probably be Harrell would be, or Kuzma too. You can make a case Kuzma is a cheap option. He's not afraid to chuck it up, but yeah, I want to see who's starting, right? Like I think that's pretty important because Dallas has been not injured, but they've had the COVID situation. So guys have not been playing. So we haven't seen like what their whole situation has been when everyone's healthy, right? When they have Willie Cauley-Stein, Powell, basically all of the guys together. I do think you'll see Willie Cauley-Stein maybe start in this spot, and that could be someone that you can end up going to at 3.6. So that's kind of my initial read. How about you?
Yeah, I think it would be Stein. And yeah, maybe in this instance, like if we think Stein's ownership is going to go up or we see a spike around the industry, we could maybe play Zeller. Yeah, this is interesting news. Yeah, but I think it would definitely be Willie Cauley-Stein. I also think like Josh Richardson gets a bump, Tim Hardaway Jr., and obviously Luka. Luka was like my play that I kind of wanted to get in every lineup. He's going to be really chalky now, I would imagine. It's not the greatest spot, right? Like they play pace down, the Suns, Chris Paul defense. So maybe if he's going to be chalky and ownership's going to shift, there may be other places to go. Maybe to Steph would be someone I'd probably consider. I gave Jeremy Grant as the workbench. Maybe I should have been looking to Steph Curry.
No, I like the Grant one. I think that's a good one. So I'd stick with it. We got I think Ryan, I believe he's our producer. He's on the back end. He said James Johnson season. So what do you think? He is a little more expensive than I'd like. He's 4-5 FanDuel. Let me see if he's got a cheaper price over there. But he is someone that will get more like ball handling opportunity and usage. What do you think of Mr. James Johnson?
Yeah, he definitely does more than WCS, right? So I don't mind James Johnson if he's starting. Whoever's starting there, I feel like would obviously end up being the chalk. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I assume. But the thing is that game's at 9, though, right? So he could be lesser owned than you'd expect. So there's a case to backload your lineups a little bit tonight. Obviously, it's something to look at.
I would personally try to play a different center, a center with power forward and center eligibility at the center position and kind of get away from those guys. I know they're getting 8 and D. It's probably a really good, nice spot, but I don't know. I feel like that would be a way in tournaments I still don't like the center position. It'd be nice if we had a stagnant. I feel like Dame only has point guard eligibility, right? Like, so he might be the guy that I'd probably be more inclined to fade now, even though I can't believe I'm saying that with a 238 total.
Yeah, it sounds terrible to do. Fading Damian Lillard is never fun. So.
I think immediately when I put that in earlier, Hoop made him like the cash game guy for the cash chart or whatever. So I think a little peek behind the paywall there for a FanDuel, and probably DK as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, right, Mangone?
Yep, that should wrap it up for us. If you do want to get a peek behind the paywall, you get the full peek, right? Pull the curtain out.
You want the full peek.
Yeah. You don't want to just be sitting there and just opening the curtain a little bit. You want the full package, right? So Workbench 21 get you 25% off your first payment over here at Run Pure Sports. That'll wrap it up for us, those guys. Please hit that like, hit that subscribe out the door. Helps us out a ton. We're going to get on out of here, though. For me, Mangone and BobbyGomes, see you guys later.